got folks who are going to be giving you about 3 minutes, hopefully. Please, rabbis in particular, we're going to keep it nice and brief. Just kidding. Sermons on the theme of rejoicing. We are in Sukkot. Some of you, I think the Bonnie Cohens might be literally in their sukkah, sitting in our Sukkot, even though that's bold after that wild rainstorm we had here in Boston earlier this evening. And we're going to kick it off tonight with Rabbi Marcia Plumb. Rabbi Marcia Plumb is the senior rabbi at Congregation Mishkan Tefila. And she has a really impressive bio, as all of our storytellers tonight do. But the thing I really find exciting about her is that she studied at the Cordon Bleu in London for 4 years. And she almost left the rabbinate to open a dessert cafe with another rabbi, which, I mean, a dessert baking rabbi. It's pretty impressive. All right, Rabbi Plumb.
So I'm sorry I don't have any bread or pastries for us tonight, but next time. So Sukkot is called Z'man Simchantenu, the festival of simcha, of joy, of happiness. But what is joy? Some people think that joy is the same as being happy. But according to Musar, joy and happiness are very different things. Musar, for those who may not know, is an ancient Jewish method and genre of literature designed to transform our souls and help us find inner balance and develop our characters into our most holy best selves. Musar makes a clear distinction between joy and happiness. So what's the difference? Happiness, according to Musar, is fleeting. It comes and goes. We know this. We can be happy in 1 minute and in a slump the next. I was happy sitting in my sukkah all day today, but if it fell down around me, or if I was sitting in it when that rainstorm happened, I wouldn't be so happy. Happiness is fleeting, but it feels good while we have it, and it makes us smile. Joy, on the other hand, deep joy, does not necessarily make us smile, but it does feel good. Joy, according to Musar, is a state of mind. Joy is a deep-seated choice. Joy is being fully ourselves, without hiddenness, defense, or fear. Joy is speaking our truth. You know that feeling when you tell someone what is really going on for you, without fear or embarrassment? That is joy. Or when we speak with clear-headedness and certainty, we're being our most authentic. We're speaking from our hearts or from the depth of our souls, and we know we nailed it. We said what we wanted to say in the best, most respectful way possible, and we said it well. That is joy. We may be sharing deep sadness, grief, anger, or pleasure. The content of what we share is not necessarily happy or feel good. And the content of the feeling or thought almost doesn't matter. It's the authenticity, the truth, the realness of speaking from a place that is deep and honest and real that matters. Quick visual. Oops, can you see that? Kind of odd there, maybe there, where what you're really feeling is deep within, and you manage to take off the mask and say what you're really feeling. The author Alan Liu wrote that joy is a deep release of the soul. Joy is any feeling fully felt, any experience we give our whole being to, any moment in our life fully inhabited, any feeling fully felt, any immersion in the full depth of life can be the source of deep joy. Or Zarua Latzadik Ulishrei Lev Simcha, may the song of your heart bring you joy. Moadim LaSimcha and Chag Sameach.
Amen. I still want cupcakes though. Just a quick reminder to our slammers, Rabbi Becky Silverstein will be will be chatting you 30-second, giving you a 30-second warning. So you'll have at least a reminder. It's funny to think about joy. There's been like some arguments in the past couple of weeks about how we should be feeling about something that happened to someone in the news and whether or not we're allowed to feel happiness about it. And there was a really interesting debate specifically about how Jews and whether or not we're allowed to be happy about it. I'm not going to comment on my feelings because that will remain a mystery, but it's just an interesting thing to think about. And with that, we'll go to our next sermon slammer, who is Nate, Nathan Vaughan. Nate is the producer of COVID Stories, which is a podcast that raises the voices of everyday people whose jobs and lives have been turned upside down due to the COVID-19 pandemic. He does a lot of stuff, but that's the most recent thing that I could find that he does. And he's married to Rachel Eisen, who works at Matan Koch, which is a place that I love very, very much. And a fun fact that I found on his Facebook is that he too enjoys that the Monday crossword puzzles make him feel smart. So we are excited to hear now from Nate Vaughan.
Hello. That was awesome. I was so curious what you would find if you stalked me on social media. So I, like Rabbi Plumb, I feel like looked around at the world that we're in today and the season that we're in today and said to myself, as we conclude our people's season of joy in our current world, what exactly is joy? What is joy? What is bliss? What is paradise? So some sources in Jewish tradition teach that Eden was a paradise, one that we've been banished from, and to which it's impossible to return to in our lifetimes, but which we hope to see in an afterlife. Other sources in Jewish tradition teach that Eden was just an idea, one that is capable of being recreated here on earth by human hands through Tikkun Olam, or by God as a reward for the righteous. But I wasn't satisfied with either of those answers, so I kept looking. So John Prine, the late immeasurably great singer-songwriter that we lost this year to COVID, called a small patch of Western Kentucky paradise, actually really close to where I grew up. He used wordplay to match his love of the rolling green hills and the gently flowing rivers with his heartbreak at the environmental devastation caused by companies that strip mined the land for coal to fuel the nearby Paradise Power Plant and hundreds of other similar plants around the world. Still, when I listen to Paradise, I don't think about the swamps of Muhlenberg County. I think about floating down the Green River in a canoe, and it brings back my own joyful memories of friends and family. Joy and heartbreak, it seems, go hand in hand. They're two sides of the same coin that, at least today in our world, seems to be constantly spinning. This year, I'm more thankful than ever to be able to sit in a sukkah and escape from the world, even just for a little bit. There's a special kind of paradise to be found under the schach. 3 years ago, my wife and I celebrated our Ofruf during Sukkot, and ever since, sitting in a sukkah has taken me back to that moment, celebrating with dozens of people crammed into the KI sukkah on a gorgeous fall day in Brookline, a scene that now seems impossible, as an overwhelming abundance of caution has changed the way we celebrate, and I struggle to remember what it feels like to be filled with an overwhelming abundance of joy and feel the spark of divine presence. Ultimately, what I love most about Sukkot is how it simply shakes up the routine of Jewish life. Heschel said, "Life is routine, and routine is resistance to the wonder." Stepping outside of our routine, say by sleeping and eating outdoors, even for a week, helps us reconnect with the divine presence all around us. Little moments of awe and wonder ignite joy as we become aware of the divine presence. Even in our new normal, small moments of awe and wonder can still exist if we're open enough to recognize them. There's a tradition in many Jewish communities of reading Kohelet either during Sukkot or Shmini Atzeret. And in the past, it's always felt odd to me to match such an apathetic book whose opening verses include utter futility, all is futile, with a holiday described as our time of joy. But this year, for the first time ever, I find myself thankful for the obligation to be joyful. And I appreciate the pairing of Sukkot and Kohelet perhaps more than ever. So for Sukkot 5781, when we're commanded to rejoice, and I still don't really know what exactly joy is or how to be joyful, I'll take my cue from Kohelet and I'll look for joy in the small things in life. Enjoy happiness with the person you love all the fleeting days of your life that have been granted to you under the sun, all your fleeting days. For that alone is what you can get out of life and out of the means you require under the sun. Chag Sameach.
Snaps, claps, all the claps, spirit fingers. Reminding me of a movie that brings me joy called Bring It On, which is an excellent film starring the incomparable Kirsten Dunst. I'm seeing a couple nods, so I hope I'm not totally out of my audience. I can only see like a handful of you on video, so I don't know how many old millennials I have tonight. Thank you. I know that I have at least one Newton North classmate in the Zoom with me. Speaking of my age, I'm really excited tonight that the next person I get to introduce is one of my students. Lucy Waldorf is a student of mine from Temple Israel and Temple Sinai. She is an incredible student activist, a writer, and an artist. I am quelling that she is here with us tonight to share some of her beautiful writing. I may just have to drop 7 other poems that she's written in the chat because she's written some really beautiful stuff. I think you can find her work on jewishboston.com. And I'm just gonna stop talking because I'm not her parent, but her very proud teacher. So Lucy, please share with us your words about rejoicing.
Thank you, Emilia, for that lovely introduction. So as she mentioned, to answer the theme of rejoicing, I wrote this short, untitled poem. I've started running as of late, and when I run, I don't just look straight ahead at the pale, weathered brick and the ticking red clock that furnishes my unfinished basement. Instead, I look at the future. In the future, I see everything but better. I'm not just reading a book. I'm running my fingers across every spine in the store. I'm licking my finger and turning the page of every encyclopedia and anthology in the library. I am not just listening to music. I'm an almost invisible speck in the bird's eye view of a vibrant concert, a magnificent show. And my smile broadens widely as I'm consumed by confetti. I'm not just seeing friends. I'm meeting new ones. I'm lost in a herd of familiar strangers on the bus and train and in the grocery store. I'm out of my comfort zone, but in the best way possible. I'm traveling across interstates and through underpasses, reveling at the scenery. I'm stopping at unfamiliar locations and taking in the view. I'm sharing a fork. I'm in a dressing room and trying on clothes that I know I'll never wear. I'm outside. I'm not alone. I am in a classroom with a teacher and students. I make out incoherent mumbles and side conversations as I focus on my work. I will have to attend meetings in the same rooms in which I am being taught. I will marvel at the cheesy posters as if they are the 7 wonders of the world, as if I missed seeing their laminated faces. Maybe I did. Maybe in the future, I'll also be running.
Yay! I mean, talk about rejoicing, talk about joy. I will say until the end of my days, the kids are all right. The future of the Jewish people is in good hands. We are going places. Let's let teens run things, and we'll honestly be really okay, I promise. If you don't know, I'm a teen educator. If you missed the Shavuot Sermon Slam, that's what I talked about. Literally, that's what my whole shebang was about. I also, if you're in any way in touch with teens, you know that the cool thing now is TikTok, and that's where I spend too much time scrolling. And the most powerful journalist in the country right now is a teenager named Claudia Conway. She is Kellyanne Conway's daughter, and she is the reason that we knew about the COVID outbreak in the White House. So there we go, folks. Teenagers, just give her the Pulitzer. It's a wild time getting news from teenagers on TikTok, but you know, health updates, it's here we are. We're Zooming, we're TikToking, learning dances and health updates on major politicians. Excellent. Next up, we have Naomi Gert-Lind, who is the mother of 2 genius boys. I wrote the genius part. She didn't say that. That was my editorial. Another crossword enthusiast, baker of a legendary challah, so I think she and Rabbi Plumb might need to have a challah off, and a rabbinical student at Hebrew College. Take it away.
Okay, here we go. 3 bridges. Kol haolam kulo. The entire world. Gesher tsar me'od is a very narrow bridge. A bridge from the time before to now. And from now to whatever comes. A bridge as narrow as the internet, carrying us from Zoom call to endless Zoom call. As narrow as the thread holding your personality together when you haven't seen a human in months. As narrow as the line between a pants day and a no pants day. And do sweats count as pants? As narrow and flimsy as the mask that hides my smile from yours. The mask that makes a kiss impossible. Ibn Ezra commented that the human soul is a bridge between the upper and lower realms, a Jacob's ladder, elevating the everyday and making the divine clear and plain. He might be right. I also consulted Rabbis Simon and Garfunkel. They're supposed to know about bridges. When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I'll dry them all. I'm on your side when times get rough and friends just can't be found. Like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down. I will lay me down. V'haikar, v'haikar, lo lefached klal. The most important thing is not to be afraid. Thank you.
Snap, send. Clap, send spirit fingers. Yes, Panina with the good snap right there. I see you. I see you, Panina. I like that. Sharon's got it too. Yes. Yes, with a good snap. Beautiful. Some singing. Get it in there. There's a lot of Hebrew College people here. A lot of Hebrew College people here. Give us a little thumbs up if you're a Hebrew Colleger. Jeez. I worked at Hebrew College for 3 years in the basement. I worked at Pro Store at Hebrew College. That the turkeys were aggressive. But the thing that brought me joy about the turkeys were that we would watch them grow up. There were little baby turkeys, and then there were teenage turkeys, and then there were grown-up turkeys. And that I enjoyed. And I also very much enjoyed, and I'm mad that I never got like a Hebrew College turkeys shirt. I'm seeing that in the chat, and like, so I'm just asking right now if there's one out there. Like, I'm not getting paid for this, so if someone could hit me up, I wear like an XL, double XL, that'd be great. Thank you. I'll drop my address later. I'm in JP, you know, obviously. So, guys, we're 3 minutes ahead of schedule, so I could vamp, but I know you all want to do the kind of really like self-flagellation torture of watching the thing that's happening after this. So, I'm not gonna watch it, because I like myself. We are going to go to our next person, who is Erie Solomon, who my Facebook stalking led me to believe that we should hang out together. They are the overnight supervisor at Y2Y, which is an amazing shelter for young people experiencing homelessness, and the lead organizer at JALSA, both at the same time. My Facebook stalking really has led me to believe that Erie and I need to probably be friends. So take it away, Erie.
Okay, thank you. And for what it's worth, I am also in JP. So I am happy to, and have a yard actually, so I'm happy to socially distance, hang out anytime. Yes. So good evening and Chag Sameach, everyone. As was said, over the past year or so, I've been working in a direct service role with Y2Y, an overnight shelter in Cambridge specifically for young people between the ages of 18 and 24, experiencing familial instability and homelessness. For most of our guests, our small collective space, hidden within a church basement in Harvard Square, is the only thing that stands between them and the harshness of the streets. For them, the precarity we reflect upon throughout Elul is more than a theological memory or state of existential dread. It is the daily fabric of their lives. As service providers, we work each night to provide a space that is welcoming, warm, and a source of community, a sanctuary within the storm. But like each of our Sukkot, battered by this evening's wind and rain, we are not a home. Our shelter is definitionally temporary and ultimately can only offer incomplete protection from the storms that our guests experience every day. Nonetheless, if you were to visit us in this basement sukkah of ours on any given evening, you would find that we are also a place of celebration. You will find moments of laughter, affection, and play. You will find excitement over both the smallest victories and the transformative ones. The ice cream bar successfully saved up for, as well as a guest's new living wage job alike. Our guests are experts in uncertainty, and the injustice of their circumstances should not be diminished. But they are also experts in rejoicing. Their perspective is one of and, not but. As we stumble through this year, suddenly faced with unprecedented precarity of our own, I know that we each have a lot to learn from them. I am reminded in particular of a night when one guest, who I will name Tommy, was having an especially difficult evening. Earlier in the day, he told me that he had been profiled and harassed by officers of the Cambridge Police Department and was feeling squeezed out of the few remaining daytime public places that remained accessible to individuals who have no home to safely quarantine in. As we sat talking in the case management room, surrounded by piles of old mail and quarantine donations, he shared with me that it felt as if he was being punished for doing nothing more than existing, that the world's message to him that day was that he belonged nowhere at all. Unable to offer him solutions to protect him from the violence of police brutality and classism and the other forces that exist, I did what I could to offer my presence, to let Tommy know that he belonged with us. He acknowledged my words, but I know that he did not feel them. Who was I, after all, to offer them? I exist in Y2Y in a space of privilege and power. To our guests, regardless of our individual circumstances, we represent what they don't have. We represent what is often harmful to them. But I need not have worried, because when we emerged back into the main space, other guests took up what I offered in words into action. They played music, they comforted him, they even danced with him. By the end of the evening, we in fact had an entire dance party going throughout the space. This guest was dancing with other guests to music that he had never heard before. But in that moment, our guests created community for themselves when the world around them when the world around them was hostile to them. And in many ways, I think this is what Sukkot is about. Sukkot is about holding both the precarity that is just definitionally a part of our world, as well as the joy that we can create between ourselves. It's not about finding joy in spite of what's going on. It's about finding joy in the midst of what's going on, because of what's going on, and together. Chag Sameach.
Beautiful. Thank you. Excellent. It's the joy in those moments. That's it's just sitting. That's sitting. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And I think finding the joy right now, right? Finding that joy and finding those moments to live in that joy is just, it's everything, right? And not losing that. I wanted to actually share a way that I found some, not joy, but some like centeredness today. And I'm also going to share a way that you can actually do it as well. There was a judge that passed a ruling that allows folks who are incarcerated to claim the $1,200 through the CARES Act. And the deadline to file by mail is October 15th. But as you might imagine, a lot of prisons are not sharing that information with the folks inside. So there are really easy packets that you can print and addresses that you can send to people. And so I will, before we leave tonight, I'll share a little bit, just the link where you can go and very easily claim some addresses, print some packets, and make sure that folks who are inside can get the money that is theirs. And bring hopefully some joy and some money to people that could use it. We could all use a little bit extra, especially in this moment, and hopefully that can bring people some joy. Speaking of people that do really great work and justice, we have friend Leora Mallach, who's the founder and director of Beantown Jewish Gardens, who built a greenhouse in her backyard this spring, which it tracks. It works. And she thinks the best use of green tomatoes is in a green tomato apple chutney, which I think would go nicely on Rabbi Plumb's bread. So I think we are going to have an outdoor something so that we can taste all of this stuff, please. And thank you. That is my request. And again, I'm not getting paid, so this is now law. Great. Go ahead, Leora.
Hi. Can you hear me? Excellent. Great. Okay. Hello, Chag Sameach. When I think about Sukkot as Z'man Simchantenu, not surprisingly, I think about it in an agricultural context. What is a harvest celebration? Very specifically, it's at the end of the harvest, contrasting this to maybe Shavuot, the first fruit harvest, thinking about that first fruit, that first ripe tomato that you get right off the vine that you can eat right then and there, and the joy that comes with that. right? That sweetness, that's not the sweetness that we have at Sukkot. This isn't the height of the abundance of summer when there's so much food that it's actually overwhelming to think about eating it all, right? This is the end. So maybe you've gone apple picking recently with your family and there's a whole lot of apples. You're not really sure what you're going to do with them. Or maybe you own a share in a local farm, community-supported agriculture, and you have all of this abundance. There is joy for sure in all of that harvest. But Sukkot is after that. Sukkot, Chag HaAsif, this idea of the ingathering that happens, this is once that harvest has been preserved. And if it's frozen, if it's fermented or dried or canned or however it is, that there's a sense of security only once that abundance of harvest, all of that sweetness has been put away and will carry us through the next season. That pure exaltation, that joy that comes in days of celebration and pilgrimage happens once our harvests are safely stored. So I bless us all that we have had a season of abundance and joy in some way, such that we are able to gather it together and preserve it such that it will carry us each through the next couple of months.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. And yes, people are asking for that recipe, Leora, so you may have to share, much to everyone's excitement. I live with a chef, much to my excitement, and that's my partner is a chef. And today he was like, "What are we gonna have for lunch?" And I was like, "Well, I'll make grilled cheese and we have like chicken soup." And he was like, "No, we should make tomato soup." And then I was like, "Okay, but I have a meeting at 1 and then all of a sudden 2 hours later we have like this like beautiful gourmet tomato soup," which I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's like, you know, the small things become. I asked for, you know, tuna salad to put on my sandwich, and now we have like a tub of tuna salad that's so if anyone needs some tuna salad in JP, I'm just saying, please come to my house. I'm not gonna be able to eat it all. I will, Becky, I will. Up next is Rabbi David Finkelstein. Rabbi David Finkelstein is the rabbi at Temple Beth Israel in Waltham. What I found about him when I stalked him on Facebook is that he showed us in stages building his sukkah, which he ate sushi in. It was beautiful sukkah. And more fun, he had a squirrel visitor in it that he called an ushpi squirrel, like ushpizin. He had a couple different names, but I like that one better. So that's the one I picked, which I thought was funny and cute. So Rabbi David.
Hello, can you hear me? All right. Yes, I'm Rabbi David Finkelstein, and when I think about joy, I think about humor. So I'm going to try and say some funny things now. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. I'm going to talk about the Rupshitzer Rebbe. Now, right away there, you know, with apologies to people whose names end in shits, I feel that the Rupshitz, it's already a name that I want to laugh at. He was the Rupshitzer Rebbe. It wasn't his last name. His last name was Horowitz, Rabbi Naftali Tzvi Horowitz. He was born in 1760 in the town of Linsk, which in Polish I think is Lesko. Apparently my great-grandfather was born in Lesko, which is kind of amazing. There's a whole story there. Anyway, the Rupshitzer was a great Talmid Chacham, a great Torah scholar, and a Badchan. A Badchan is somebody who you hire to dance at your wedding and somebody who you hire to do shtick, you know, to make people laugh. So I studied some of the sayings and anecdotes of the Rupshitzer with my teacher, Magid Yitzchak Buxbaum, who has been quite sick lately. So all of what I'm saying in the next 5 seconds until I'm done with this 3 minutes, I'm dedicating to his refuah. And I would encourage everybody, in order to encourage his refuah, to look up Maggid Yitzchak Buxbaum and see the wonderful books that he's written and benefit from his Torah. Among the bits about the Rupshitzer that Maggid Yitzchak Buxbaum taught me was this little anecdotal story. The Rupshitzer stopped in a village during his travels, and he found a shul, and he davened there. He found that there were 10 other men in the shul, and he didn't understand because there was a shul and a cemetery. And after the davening, everybody, all the men left, and there was just a little girl. And he said to the little girl, I don't understand your town. You have a minyan with only 10 men and a cemetery. If one of those men dies, you don't have a minyan. But if none of them dies, you don't need the cemetery. So why have both? And the little girl said to him, you don't understand. The cemetery is for passers-by like you. And he appreciated her cleverness. Another anecdote about the Rupshitzer is that he said, I don't want to do tshuva, which is kind of a wonderful thing for a rabbi to say, I think. Although when I've said it, I've gotten flack for it. I don't want to do tshuva. I just want to be a friend of the Shekhinah. I just want to be a friend of God's presence in the world. And finally, I hope I'm coming in under 3 minutes, so I'm not timing myself. The Rupshitzer was passing through another town in his travels. 30 seconds left. Thank you, Becky. The Rupshitzer was passing through a town during his travels and was asked to give a sermon in the synagogue. And he got up on the bima and he said, there are 2 criteria for a truly good sermon. 1, it has to be true. And 2, it has to be on the parsha, on the Torah portion of the week. He said, I don't know what the Torah portion is. That's both true and it's on the Torah portion. Good Shabbos. Chag Sameach.
Thank you. What's that name again? Can you say it again? Rupshitz?
The Rupshitz. Yeah, it's a town in Poland. Rupshitz.
Rupshitz, thank you. That's yeah, Naomi said it. Thank you. I always love the humor. My big thing, and one of the things that has been getting me through quarantine has been a podcast called Fake Doctors, Real Friends, which is Donald Faison and Zach Braff, who were the stars of the show Scrubs, if anyone watched the show Scrubs, and they kind of recap the show, and they're best friends. And it's honestly, even if you didn't watch the show, I highly recommend you listen to them because they're just best friends and they just talk to each other. And the other day they made Appletinis. They've like now joined pods. And they made Appletinis on Instagram Live, and they laughed a lot together. And you really just need, it is old millennial gold. Tiferet, you're correct. My favorite word of the last month has been schadenfreude, just to bring it back up to the top. If you don't know that word, you can Google that. I'm bringing things back together. That's what comedians do. They like go back to the joke at the top, and they like, now we feel like we have an inside joke. Great. Okay. I'm hitting the road, folks. Our next, second to last slammer this evening is Leann Shamash. Leann is a mom, a bubby, a wife, a yoga dance teacher, and a blogger. But being who I am, I found it most exciting that Leann just adopted a new dog from Alabama whose name is Trixie, and that she grows hops in her backyard. So, time to make some beer. Leann, is Trixie there?
She's in there. She's sleeping.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. I have a poem. It might take a little bit more than 3 minutes. Okay. It's called The Holiday of Our Joy. What if they gave a holiday and called it the holiday of our joy? What if all they asked of you, a city person, a person with 2 left hands, is to build a flimsy structure of sticks and wood, and asked you of all people to complete that structure with a roof of branches, hunting with your saw at the cusp of evening for maple or pine or oak, dragging them down your street, yellow pine needles leaving a path behind you. Your clumsy structure, whose walls are old pink and purple bed sheets or flowered tablecloths. A structure that dances with the wind, bejeweled with pine cones, and the warm autumn sun slants down from between the branches overhead. What if they gave a holiday and called it the holiday of our joy, and asked you to sit in that structure, to eat in that structure, to speak, to study, to take your kids by the hand and sleep in that structure? Your kids dragging sleeping bags onto the floor, which is littered with crumbs, shimmying in, shoulder to shoulder, pajama to pajama. And what if the air was electric with excitement? Your kids staring up at the sky between the branches, eyes wide open, smiling lips, fingers pointing upwards. I can see the moon. What if they gave a holiday and called it the holiday of our joy, and asked you to sit with your people in this structure called a sukkah, to offer your mushroom barley soup and the challah you struggle to perfect, to offer others the chance to sit under your cranberried canopy, which you have created with your hands, even as it droops slightly to the left. That structure where you shared food with the bees, who came uninvited and stayed well until after dessert. And what if in that sukkah where you have sat with your people and talked an endless cloud of stories, rising under the crown of filigreed branches, in this miraculous sukkah of simplicity and joy? What if they gave a holiday and called it the holiday of our joy, and the memories that were made in that sukkah lasted forever? You taste the soup and you look at your children's smiling eyes. You taste the challah and you think of your grandparents. With each sip of wine that you share with your friends, you sip the wisdom from them and have a taste of their lives. You feel the cool air on your face and know in your heart just what joy is. You sit in the drizzle and your hair gets wet, but you don't want to move. You sit in the sukkah, which you built with your own hands, so imperfect like each of us. Yet only through this holy imperfection can we view the light of the stars. And that's it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Every Wednesday morning, you can hear a poem from Leann on KI Zoom Minion. How early? What time? Early? If it's early, I don't do early. But I'm hopefully it's not that early. I did yoga last night. Time means nothing. In Newton, and we finished at 6:45 right as the first stars were coming out. It was so nice. I haven't been able to do a sukkah because we don't really have space, so it was nice to maybe feel a second of like sukkah-likeness. So that's what your poem reminded me of, Liam, was that kind of nice moment of opening my eyes after Shavasana and just seeing all that. Okay, we have one more slammer, but we have time. Should we just chat? Or should I just chat and hear my own? No, okay. This is like my fantasy is just being able to talk and nobody else can talk. Becky does technically have muting power. I knew he was going to do that. He's the only one that can do that. I think I can unmute myself though. So really he doesn't have that much power, but this is again my fantasy where I just like people are forced to listen to me talk like before they really want to get to the big thing at the end, because the last person is Matan, who's really who you're like, you really want to hear him, but I'm the only thing standing between you and Matan. Anyway, great. So I am going to give it over to Matan now. Matan is sporting an excellent corn beard. I have to say, I'm a fan of the big beard on you. Matan Koch is a speaker, educator, and consultant promoting universal inclusion of people with disabilities in all aspects of society. He is a former Bostonian. We don't hold it against him that he left us for the West Coast. But my fun fact about him is that I checked with him. He has not had green juice yet, so he's okay. He hasn't been taken over by the pod people in Los Angeles. He's still one of us. And I am so excited that he's here tonight. What a gift. One of the gifts of this moment is that we can still have friends from afar with us for these moments. So Matan, please share some Torah with us.
Thank you for that, and thank you so much for that wonderful pun on my name that I'm sure was intentional, because that happens a lot too. And I will, for those who don't know, Matan is Hebrew for gift, so that comes up from time to time. And I am going to share with you a slam that I've entitled A Conversation with My Subconscious. Scary place, don't know if you want to be there. Be happy. You shall rejoice. No, really, do it, but no. Stuck at home, no. COVID-19, nope. You shall rejoice. But I'm not happy. I miss my friends, but look at my hair. You shall rejoice. Well, geez, I guess it's pretty unequivocal. Well, there's Hallel. I like Hallel. Do you like Hallel? Catchy tunes. Really catchy tunes. Snappy tunes. And then document that's not scrolling. Catchy. I like good food. And an excuse to break my calorie count. And look, here's an open-air shack. The perfect COVID venue. Maybe I can rejoice, but the commandment says, you shall rejoice. I'm getting there. Hey, look, I'm dancing with some tree branches. Hey, look, my friends on the Zoom. Hey, look, it's a cheerful Sukkot music video. This is not half bad. I know, I have to rejoice. And maybe that's the thing the command envisions, that happiness, rejoicing, they can be decisions. We can't change external factors, but in our lives, we're the key actors, playing a role we wrote ourselves. We must choose to rejoice as if prompted by an unyielding internal voice, a commandment at once unreasonable and sublime, to simply choose happiness, at least for a time. Don't worry, be happy. It surely sounds sappy. And yet, if you'll allow no other choice, shouting and listening to that voice, in time you may find that you can rejoice. Be happy. You shall rejoice. I can rejoice. I can rejoice. I can rejoice. Come on, let's rejoice.
Yes. Yes. Amen. I should have held out longer so that we could have stretched that out longer. We can rejoice. I'm feeling joyful after that one. Thank you, Matan. How nice together with you in that moment. We're about to wrap up. Before I hand it back off to Stephanie to take us home, just want to thank you all so much for being here. I want to thank all of our slammers, snaps, claps, wavy fingers, spirit fingers. Thank you all for listening to my mouth noises and entertaining my absurdity. I did drop the link in there if you're interested in making sure that folks who are incarcerated can get access to that $1,200 through the CARES Act. Breonna Taylor, say her name every day, Black Lives Matter, and love that sukkah, shake the lulav, shake the etrog, rejoice, and hold the people that you love really close while we seek justice at the same time, because we can walk and chew gum, because we can do both, and that's what we do. All right, thank you, Stephanie. You don't regret asking me too much, do you?
Not yet.
I can still go.
It's all right. It's all right. Thank you very much, Emilia. And thank you to all of our slammers again. And just a shout out to the planning committee, Andy, Tiferet, Becky, Claudia, Jim, Elizabeth. I think that's everybody. Sorry if I missed anybody. And we will be in touch about future events. And if you're interested in performing in the future, probably not for several months, but if you are, or if you're interested in getting involved with planning, please let us know. Now go yell at your TV. We'll see you in a few months.
Or don't. Go to bed. Take care
Whatever.
of yourself. Have some tea.
Whatever you want to do. Eat cookies.
The highlights tomorrow. Nothing's going to be different tomorrow.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.